Today, world leaders speak with one voice about multipolarity.
In a multipolar world,
They make it sound inevitable, natural, like gravity pulling the world into balance. But 50 years ago, three nations were ready to annihilate each other. Nuclear threats flew between Moscow and Beijing. Indian and Chinese soldiers killed each other in the mountains. Soviet tanks massed on China's border. This is the story they don't tell at summits, how three countries that nearly destroyed each other became the architects of a new world order, and why the West never saw it coming. In 1954, India and China signed the Panchsheel Agreement, or the 5 Principles of Peaceful Coexistence. The mood feels good. The warmth shows in Nehru's slogan, Hindi Chini Bye Bye. India and China are brothers. For Nehru, this is genius. While others bow to Washington or Moscow, India charts its own course, non-alignment. A third way, China seems to agree, both ancient civilizations. What could go wrong? Everything. 5 years later, Tibet erupts. Beijing sends in the troops. Monasteries burn. The Dalai Lama flees across the Himalayas into India. And here's where Nehru makes a choice that changes everything. He could have turned the Dalai Lama away and kept China happy. Instead, he offers asylum. Beijing reads this as betrayal. Then comes another shock. China has been secretly building a highway through Aksai Chin, territory India claims as its own. The Brotherhood is dead, and in the midst of this, drama is unfolding in the north. This is Nikita Khrushchev of the USSR, and this is Mao Zedong of China, the titans of communism, controlling half the planet between them. They disagreed a lot, and many of those disagreements were about India. But listen to what they're actually fighting about. Khrushchev waves his hand dismissively. 5 kilometers more land or 5 kilometers less with India. This is not important. Mao's jaw tightens. The events in Tibet are Nehru's fault. Khrushchev explodes. No, the events in Tibet are your fault. Letting the Dalai Lama escape was stupid. The argument spirals. Khrushchev defends Moscow's neutral stance on the India-China border dispute. Without it, he argues, the world would see a united front of socialist countries against Nehru. Chen Yi, China's foreign minister, snaps back. Your statement supports India. It supports the bourgeoisie. Khrushchev pushes harder. Why did you have to kill people on the Indian border? The Chinese insist the Indians fired first, crossed the McMahon line. Ping Zhen calls it a dirty line not recognized by any Chinese government. Khrushchev's response is devastating. We know nothing about this line, and we don't even want to know. Think about what just happened. By 1960, India had received more Soviet assistance than China had. The two communist superpowers are splitting over India. Moscow wants to keep Nehru close. We should support Nehru, help him stay in power. Mao's response is chilling. We should crush him. In short, India became the wedge. Moscow prioritized de-escalation and a working relationship with New Delhi. China pressed a harder line on Nehru. As you can tell, subsequent talks between India and China failed, and the Indochina War broke out on October 20th, 1962. The USSR publicly took a neutral position and urged a peaceful settlement. People's Daily, the official Communist Party of China mouthpiece, blasted this stance as unprecedented, calling it the first time a communist state had not sided with another communist state against a bourgeois country. And here's the incredible timing. The war erupts exactly as the Cuban Missile Crisis unfolds. For 13 days in October, the US and USSR stood at the nuclear brink over missiles in Cuba. Khrushchev is juggling nuclear war with America while his communist ally attacks his Indian partner. China's media tears into Khrushchev, calling his Cuba missile deployment adventurism and the resolution capitulation. The communist world is shattered. By 1969, it gets worse. Soviet and Chinese forces clash at Zhenbao Island on their border. Nuclear threats fly. Mao flees Beijing, genuinely fearing a Soviet nuclear strike. The two communist powers are closer to nuclear war with each other than with the West. Meanwhile, China backs Pakistan in its 1965 war with India, issuing ultimatums threatening military action. The triangle is complete, but it's a triangle of enemies, not allies. The Sino-Soviet split drove Moscow to value India more strategically. On August 9, 1971, India and the Soviet Union signed the Treaty of Peace, Friendship, and Cooperation. Article 9 is crucial. It requires mutual consultations and appropriate effective measures if either party is threatened. While not explicitly a defense pact, everyone understands the message. Attack India. Face the Soviets. That winter, the treaty proved its worth. When Pakistan attacks India and India moves to liberate Bangladesh, the Soviet Union vetoes every US-backed resolution at the UN. A new nation is born, Bangladesh, carved out of Pakistan with Soviet diplomatic cover and Indian military might. The chessboard has shifted. China has the US, July 1971. Henry Kissinger fakes a stomachache in Pakistan and disappears. He was actually on a secret flight to Beijing. And India has the USSR, but nobody sees the next move coming. After Mao died in 1976, Deng Xiaoping took control with a new philosophy. Development first, disputes later. Forget ideology. Forget revolution. In simple words, grow the economy and welcome trade and investment. Across the next decade, the Sino-Soviet freeze thawed. December 1988, Rajiv Gandhi visits Beijing. India and China begin talking again, even as their border dispute festers. Everyone's hedging their bets as the Cold War order crumbles. May 15, 1989, Gorbachev lands in Beijing. After 30 years of hostility, he and Deng normalize relations. The timing is extraordinary. Tiananmen Square is filled with protesters. Within weeks, the protests were crushed. Within 2 years, the Soviet Union was gone. 1991, the Soviet Union collapses. America emerges as the sole superpower. The unipolar moment has arrived. But in Moscow, a former intelligence chief has other ideas. May 1998, India shocks the USA with nuclear tests at Pokhran. The Americans slap sanctions on India. Western banks pull out of the country. India needs friends, and fast. Enter Yevgeny Primakov. Former KGB, now Prime Minister, he arrived in Delhi in December 1998 with a radical proposition, a strategic triangle between Russia, India, and China as a counterweight to Western dominance. The Russian press mocks the idea. Too many challenges, they say. Unresolved borders between India and China, competing interests, historical baggage. But Primakov sees what others don't. These three countries don't need to love each other. They just need to hate unipolarity more. The RIC, Russia, India, China, is born. Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill coins the term BRIC in 2001, thinking he's identifying investment opportunities. He doesn't realize he's naming a revolution. June 2009, Yekaterinburg, Russia. The first BRIC summit convenes. Brazil, Russia, India, China, representing 40% of the world's population, sit at the same table. The financial crisis has just exposed the fragility of the Western-led system. These countries smell opportunity. The BRIC create their own development bank and reserve currency pool. South Africa has joined, making it BRICS. The West dismisses it as a talking shop. They're not paying attention. By 2024, BRICS is expanding rapidly. BRICS Plus now represents 46% of the global population. Their combined GDP in purchasing power terms has surpassed the G7. They're growing at 4 to 5% annually while the West stagnates. Jim O'Neill, who coined BRIC, wrote in 2024 that these countries have proven incapable of uniting as a meaningful global force. He's looking at it wrong. These aren't friends building a club. They're former enemies with converging interests. India and China still have troops facing each other on their border. Russia sells weapons to both India and China. China courts Pakistan, India's arch-enemy. But here's what the West misses. They don't need to resolve these issues. The strategic triangle works precisely because it's not an alliance. It's a mechanism for managing rivalry while containing Western power. Every handshake at these summits carries the weight of history. When Modi and Xi meet, the ghosts of 1962 are in the room. When Putin mediates between them, he's playing a game Khrushchev started 60 years ago. Do let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you like such videos and want us to create more, do subscribe and support the channel.